I am very happy to introduce our keynote speaker today. Charlie Molepo has been an information professional for over 30 years, as well as a qualified educator and assessor. He's worked at various institutions like Vista, University of Johannesburg, UKZN, UN UKS, and Bertram Books UK. He was an executive member of LIHASA and chair of continuing professional development from 2004 to 2005, national president, Union of Democratic University Staff from 1998 to 2004, a Vista University Council member from 2000 to 2002, a Gauteng South LIHASA Librarian of the Year in 2007. He was also a board member and chair of HR Committee ETDP CETA 2000 to 2004 and again in 2010 to 2012. He was a board member of COSALC Sanlik 2004 to 2005, executive member of LIHASA and chair of ELIG, and continuing professional development from 2004 to 2005. Also Gaelic deputy chair User Education Group from 2003 to 2006. Designer and facilitator in the European Union Department of Education, Higher Education Libraries Programme, member in SOCWA Standard Generating Body for Library Information Services from 2002 to 2010, part of the team ETDP CETA that designed the Library Assistant Occupational Qualification for QCTO registered by SOCWA in 2015, and recently completed the Quality Assessment Standards Assessment for Library Assistant Occupational Qualification. And currently, Charlie is Acting Director for the Library and Information Services here at the University of the Free State. Charlie presented a paper on the Fourth Industrial Revolution for a LIHASA webinar. And based on that, I interviewed him to find out more about his ideas around openness and the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I asked Charlie how we could leverage the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the tools and technology to help lessen inequality in our society.
In reality, if you look through all the industrial revolutions, the 50% of the people are left behind in all the it's happening. But what 4IR can be capable of doing is to in bridging the gap, even within the universities. Because what might be relevant for first world countries, you may find in the developing countries, you find that the uptake in terms of funding doesn't come through. I was reading one article where there was an innovator here in South Africa. He developed something to clean I think it was used to clean the ocean. But there was no uptake. There was not even a single university prepared to assist with funding. Neither was NRF, neither was. So ultimately, that product was taken overseas. And now we are trying to buy it back as a country. So, but let's assume it was happening in an open environment. I would have read about it somewhere. So I think the good thing about it, if most of these things, when they happen, if they don't solve our current problem, I'm just thinking now that in the country we're having a serious issue with load shedding, meaning that the capacity in terms of electricity generation, and thinking about it, I don't think there are fewer than 1,000 people currently looking at alternative power generation. Each and everyone is duplicating what the other one is doing. But if we had a platform, one thing that comes into mind is the discovery of that Naledi in the caves. the way it played out, because it was live. Every researcher anywhere in the world was following as if he's in the cave. That's why now when we look at that, it comes to that issue of open peer review, because people can immediately comment either on the modus operandi in terms of how the research is being conducted. They can look at, immediately evaluate and raise whatever issues they need answers. So by the time one writes an article, he already has some feedback, or when somebody writes out a research output, you already have a feedback from those who are participating in the process towards the generation of the actual data. If you think about it, these tools, these are for IR tools that are there. It's just that as universities and researching institutions, we need to invest in these things so that when I'm working on, and I'm thinking in terms of collaboration, if I am collaborating, if a researcher is collaborating with another researcher sitting at, why do they have to wait? Like now, let's take the issue around COVID. We see now COVID, we need answers and we need them now. But the data is it's slow because it's a new, so why would somebody wait for something to be published first before one has that data? But if as I collect my data here in South Africa, somebody would be collecting data in France and we can compare. Those are the benefits of that comes with, and with 4IR hardware and software, because now it's just a mindset. That's what we should be pushing for, the change in mindset, where people start to begin to see, because whatever the sources I'm consulting in generating mine, that one it's with me. We are approaching it from a different angle, but the data, we are sharing the data.
I asked Charlie if a change in mindset that he spoke about could happen quickly enough for the 4IR to benefit more people.
Yes, I think so. Once we started to see the benefit, because now the approach that we are seeing beginning in Europe and we're entertaining here in South Africa in terms of pay to publish and free to read, is going to increase the readership of academic or scientific papers, which is going to have the effect that is required, where people get exposed to recent research and be able to interact. Because to be honest, whatever is published, even by by African academics, almost 90% of the academics in Africa won't be able to read those. And the people who could in what's that are not participating because they can't afford to subscribe or to pay, and therefore that's what they are not realizing now, the publishers. But once the model changes and they find a balance in terms of how to make sure that they become competitive, because you look at it, one of the biggest booksellers, Bertram Books, has closed. Went under business rescue and it has been sold. And nobody ever thought of that because they were so powerful. The reality is that it's bound to happen. We have seen now new players on the market. I've heard about them for the first time now when we're looking at the issue of textbooks. An aggregator called Cortext. Maybe you might be familiar with VitalSource and those. So those are the people who are beginning to say, you can have these information resources when you need it immediately. Like now, one doesn't have to. If you know about the book trade, if I order a book now, I'm going to receive it 3 to 6 months from now, you know. But if you think about it, the way the students now want to interact with information, if they see something on TV on today, they would want to go and search tomorrow and see and find out exactly what's there, because that's the way things are supposed to be. So going it's the route to go, and the reality is that because of that, more and more publishers will be pushed towards opening themselves up. So why do we have to wait? If a journal is published twice a year, if there's a groundbreaking research, why do we have for the journal to be published sometime in January next year when the information is available now? Those are the realities, yeah.
So maybe the current situation that we're finding ourselves in is also contributing, the lockdowns, contributing to people seeing the benefit of things being more open. There are so many things coming to light, especially about inequalities.
Yeah, if you think about it, the issue of if you look at the 3D scan, for instance, and the production of masks and face shields for frontline staff and those kind of things. Some few months ago, nobody was thinking about that, and it's clear when it began, all of a sudden everybody was printing it. Who has the IP? So it's clear that somehow it was open. For the very fact it was from all walks of life, ordinary people. I was looking at this guy Nelson in Cape Town. He's an ordinary person. The only thing he did, he managed to source 3D printers. My thinking is that open environment. It was easy for people from all walks of life to be able to develop those masks.
Charlie and I also spoke about 4IR tools that we can use in the current lockdown situation.
Yeah, I was thinking about, for instance, if you look at now, as an example, University of Free State, we've got approximately roughly around 34,000 students. And all of a sudden, because of the distance between the university and the library and with the students, now we need to develop new ways of communication. And because of preference, people have different preference. All of a sudden now we're thinking, what model can we use to be able to reach all 34,000 of them remotely, and take into consideration the issue of data, because now you can't, students have to be vigilant in terms of how much data they are using. So now what do you look for? You look for those tools that will make it easy for them to be able, for you to be able to reach them. And some student will have a question at the wee hours of the morning. He's studying alone, he's far. At 12 o'clock, he has a nagging question. The easiest way, and now that's why you see things like chatbots and robots, where those things will be able to, a user will be able to communicate with them and get at least the minimum information they require. So if one develops one for University of the Free State, for instance, and it's easy for us in the library industry because our very own nature is we work in consortium, we collaborate, So why would you develop something like that and keep it to yourself? You would rather share it. The other thing, when you send me this request to talk about open access, I was thinking now, I'm not familiar how it operates, but if you look at the way they're trying to link OC ID to publishing, to RefWorks, to so if from one publisher an article is published, in the past we would share this, we will have to share this information, or somebody must take an initiative to go and upload information in a particular database and say, now there's this new research by this professor from University of the Free State and that. So what we should try and do as open access activists is to try and look at these things and develop platform that will do this interoperability of systems. So every system we develop, we must make sure that it's able to share the information with the relevant databases that we want the journal articles to be searchable from. So that at the end of the day, those are the benefits. That's what comes with technology. If you know how information is transferred from one system to another, you just make sure that your system is compatible, and without the human intervention, information would move from one system to the next.
Yeah, so many of the things that you spoke about, the 4IR technologies, the interoperability and the Internet of Things. I mean, ORCID is a very good example of that then.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because now I was trying to find those things. Obviously, my thinking was really more towards scholarly communication, but we should move open access not beyond scholarly communication. Open access in terms of software and development, especially those things that are of public good. Because open access, to be honest, what's important about it is it's that whatever you're doing, the person is doing for public good. That's why it becomes a problem for publishers for profit, people with investors who are looking at profits and those to understand the model, because the emphasis on public good. But what we have seen with what now is being tried to push through is to try and balance public good with good business sense, whereby publishers would at least gain something. I think in the models going forward, one of the important things is to try and develop tools. I'm just thinking now, in the acquisition department, we've got these things called EDTs. One of the most frustrating things in scholarly communication is payment of page fees or maybe article processing fees, whereby it's sent to a finance department who've got some finance procedure that they had to apply. So sometimes they don't understand. They may then want to say, we need 3 quotations because the page fees are above 40,000.
Yeah.
You know, so every time there's a new person, you need to explain. So the turnaround time of the payment of page fees then becomes an issue, or APCs becomes an issue. But if you think about it, what interoperability allows in acquisition, for instance, we've got what you call EDTs. So everything it's electronic, because now once you approve systems, it doesn't matter who sits behind. The system understands that this person complies. So if we, in a model, we're developing such that once something is uploaded into, let's say in our case, you receive an approved manuscript to say, yes, we approve your manuscript, it will be published. Then that process kicks in from the DRT side, where they are putting in, and then we say, okay, fine, you're choosing this open source, or even if it's a hybrid, but you are pushing for an open. So it automatically publishes it. The payment goes through without somebody paying, intervening. So the invoice goes through, the page fees are paid. you set up in such a way that you monitor the publication of that in an open platform. Because what happens sometimes is that, especially with hybrids, while you would have paid for APCs, you may find that your paper is behind paywall. You won't easily see it yourself because as a publisher, you are already given a complimentary copy. You have access to a complimentary copy. So when you log in as yourself, you'll think, but only to find that it's behind the paywall. We set up a system in that everything that has been published, system automatically goes and check if those links lead to, if it requires people, is it behind paywall or is really open in a sense. Those are the things that we would be exploring in terms of the technology. So the most important thing, Cornell, just in short, in terms of 4IR within the open access, is that we should be looking at what's currently available and see how then can we promote it. I think with the development, with the establishment of a digital scholarship center, we can use it as one of the as something that facilitates. As a university, we can always begin to apply our minds, put research, and in some cases, obviously involve academic departments and ICTS to say, this is what we're thinking about. Can we look at what are the possibilities of us engaging in things like this? Because the reality of what COVID has done, it has shown that we require information as quickly as possible, and the only way that can happen is in an open environment where there's minimum filtering of information, because currently with the filtering information, it has a huge impact. COVID has presented us with an opportunity of try to speed up, look at the opportunities in terms of 4IR, because I think the narrative has always been negative, meaning people losing jobs and those kind of things. And if you look at any institution, because of the cost of labor, I can bet you none of the current support service within a university are actually, they can say we have a full complement of staff. So what 4IR present us with, it's technology that allow certain things to happen without the human intervention, while the humans deal with those things that require our expertise, require us our problem thinking skills, require our interpersonal relation, require those things that are peculiar to that are unique to human beings, but those things that can be performed in an automated environment by a machine that would use, that could be programmed to and through machine learning be able to handle those things. In a sense, it just makes our life much easier and allow us to innovate and work more. Like I'm saying, in our unit, in terms of scholarly communication, because we have been promoting the issue of open peer review. Journals would have their own editorial board and reviewers. But think about it. If when you're working on something, once you push something, now currently, if you are not part of the reviewing team, whatever you're going to say, it means you must now publish it somewhere and try and critique and add value on a particular article. But if you think about it in terms of open, if it's open, what technology can do is that your comment, whether it's on the web or or the channel has developed a platform where when people comment, those comments will go to the editorial board and look at those things. That enhances the quality in a way that no one has ever thought about it. Because now you have 1 million people reading your article now, or your manuscript now, making comments, and the editorial board seeing all those comments, and so those are the things that it should be thinking about.
For more on the fourth industrial revolution and libraries, you can watch Charlie's webinar on Leasa News on YouTube. Now we have some time for questions, so if you haven't already, type in the Q&A box and we will answer your questions now. Fourth